So, the grid for the first Modified Ford Series race this weekend, sponsored by James Allen Interiors, looks as follows. It is fast Welshman Jason Davies in his Ford Sapphire Cosworth, who takes pole position, alongside Scotsman Lloyd Jameson in his Ford Escort Cosworth Maxi. Then it's the beautiful V8 supercar sounding Ford Capri with the V8 of Simon Light, alongside Mike Manning in that gorgeous Texaco Eggenberger-inspired Ford Sierra RS500. You then have Daniel Brown in his RS500, alongside Scott Matthias in the Sapphire Cosworth. James Allen will start in 7th on the grid, alongside Chris Harrison, the first of the Ford Escort RSR Space Frame cars. Paul Neville, who's the series owner and coordinator, will start in 9th, alongside Darren Owen on another Mark 1 RSR on the 5th row. Sean Brown and Oliver Bullying and then come next. We see them scrolling through the grid, but I'll read through the full. And it's Stefan Marsh and Sam Daffin on the 7th row of the grid, from Mike Thurley in his Mark 1 Zaxpeed Escort and Alan Tolley in his 4x4 Sierra XR. Stephen Primmett in a Mark 1 Escort, Michael McKenzie in his Fiesta ST150 come next, followed by Chris White and Mick Head, who I think it was meant to be an Escort Cosworth, but that's still being worked on. He's now got a really lovely looking Mark 2 Ford Focus, which looks like a Ken Block Monster Rally car. You'll see that on screen as it goes through. Next is Jason Stone and Lucas Dryden on the 11th and 12th rows of the grid. Gary Johnson on row 12, James Newins and Ian Blackley, Gary Littlewood and Richard Bishop, Malcolm Wise in his Escort Cosworth, Kester Cook, who's a bit further back than he would like to be, but he's back in 30th. He's been a regular front runner in those classes before. And then John Ward and Leslie Chapelhow will round out the 32 car entry that qualified this morning, and should be all present to go for 15 minutes of racing. It is planned to be 15 minutes. We are, in terms of timetable, okay, we've got ourselves back towards only 20 minutes behind schedule, so they're kind of cutting out all the clear up time in order to get ourselves back on schedule, so we should be able to rattle through these races one after the other, give as many as possible the full amount of time. Now, one thing I do have to applaud them for is these rolling starts. They do go 2 by 2, and they've been learning over the years to get better and better, but you have to say, look at how beautifully presented that rolling start is. 2 by 2, 16 rows of blue ovals. It is a very highly powered Ford Sierra Sapphire Cosworth of Jason Davies and Lloyd Jameson in that Ford Escort Cosworth Maxi. Then you've got Simon Light's blue Ford Capri and that gorgeous Texaco Eggenberger liveried Ford Sierra RS500. It might well be just a replica. I'm not sure if it's genuine, but it's very least a tribute to the awesome cars from the European and World Touring cars of the late 80s. So side by side through the grid, through the field they'll go, and all set for 15 minutes of action set to burst into life for the first Modified Ford Series race of the day, sponsored by James Allen Interiors. The red lights will come on any second now. When they go out, they'll put their foot to the floor, green flag in the air, and we are up and underway for Modified Fords here at Donington Park. It's a nice even side-by-side run to the corner, 3 abreast between the two RS500 sandwiching Simon Light's Capri, and there goes Manning around the outside in the Texaco car. The other car which you want to watch for is Daniel Brown in the Brandon Giesing car, and actually I've cursed Mike Manning quickly enough because he's gone wide over the gravel and lost a couple of places. He's lost out to the very fast starting Paul Neville, who's up there to 5th position. He started what was in 9th, so 4th place already, but diving up the inside for the lead. Well, out of 2nd place in fact, because into the lead has gone Daniel Brown, who started 5th. Something happened on the exit of the corner, it seems, between the front row men of Jason Davies and Lloyd Jameson, because they've now dropped back to 2nd and 3rd respectively. Simon Light is on Jameson's tail as they come up through McLean's for the first time, fast starting Neville up to 5th. And as for Mike Manning, he's not in 5th position because there is another Sapphire, that Scott Matthias' car, would offer you in P5 ahead of James Allen. When James was there, yeah, he was hidden behind him for a second. Watch for Chris Harrison in the RSR. They won't move their way through fairly steadily. And Mike Manning's car back towards the bottom of the top 10. So a slightly frantic start, but they're all seemingly getting through towards the end of this first lap relatively unscathed, as James Allen trying to get the front of his own sponsored race past both Scott Matthias and then Paul Neville in quick succession at the chicane. But a bit of skirmishing on this opening lap, but they're all, fingers crossed, Andy McEwen seems to be getting through pretty much unscathed as they come onto lap number 2. But admittedly, what a fantastic sight they make through the chicane.
Yeah, great sight, great sound, massive grid, 31 cars out there, and always some good battles within the classes. Side by side here, Scott Matthias on the outside line through the first corner there. And that was Paul Neville, wasn't it, that he was dicing with. Managed to get ahead, actually. That's for 6th position now. Matthias gains a place, and James Allen next in line for him. Allen a little out of position, I would argue. 7th on the grid. We've seen James Allen win these races frequently before, but yeah, not qualifying quite as well as he normally would have done this weekend. There goes the 92 Ford Fiesta of Michael McKenzie through shot as they head up towards McLean's for the first time. The lead, though, held by the 185 car. And Daniel Brown from 5th on the grid to the lead by the end of the opening lap. That's decent going, isn't it?
That was something happened at Redgate Corner because Mike Manning's Texaco Sierra was wide at the corner, but I think something also kicked off maybe between the front row men of Jason Davies and Lloyd Jameson, because they fell back, and by the time they got to the old hairpin, Brown was a few seconds ahead. Not anymore, he's not, because Jason Davies has caught him and passed him and got ahead by half a second, setting the new fast snap of the race. I felt that was always going to happen, given that when Jason turns up in that car, it's usually a quick car anyway, so that car's going to be pushing forward. So Davies has now given Daniel Brown a short-lived lead. He's now back in front, with Jameson's holding on to second, in third place behind Brown. So we've got Sierra Sapphire from Sierra RS500 from Escort Maxi Cosworth from the Simon Light car. There is the number 2 machine of Sam Daffin. I've seen that car in like a Golf livery with the kind of more deeper orange stripe and front end on it. Down the hill they go. There goes Scott Matthias, tailed by Paul Neville and the recovering Mike Manning. He dropped to about 10th on the opening lap after he ran wide on the exit of Redgate. Stefan Marsh in there just ahead of Sam Daffin, but there is Jason Davies in typical blissful ignorance. Now he's pulled away. That definitely is not half a second, that is several seconds in front, and now he's leaving Brown to be the clutches of the 3 cars behind, who, as we know, having seen them before, are quite hungry for good results. Yes, indeed so. So Davies then now should have the pace, I would suspect, to pull away at the head of the field. There is Matthias now up in, Jameson, excuse me, into second position. So Lloyd Jameson then getting ahead of Brown too. So the fast starting Daniel Brown now starting to slip back towards where he qualified, 5th position. This is going to be James Allen through, I suspect, on the inside line into Redgate corner. Indeed it is. So the focus goes through, and off is the 362. Trying to work out where that is. Is that the Craner Curves? It is. Yes, bottom of the Craner Curves. That car has come a cropper. So that's the yellow flags down there, isn't it, Scott? Yeah, there's Chapel Howe. That's the car that starts at the back of the field, the Fiesta ST150. I wasn't about to state what was on the rear window, but we'll gloss over that unless you spotted that. To get you to work out your own reasons what that means. Meanwhile, our leaders, Davies has now already very quickly pulled out a 6.1 second lead, and he's at least 5 seconds quicker as James Allen very wayward there, getting past Lloyd Jameson. He went to go for the apex. I think he spooked Lloyd, was wondering where he was going. He dived up the inside, and there was almost contact between the two of them when Lloyd tried to turn in and just got surprised by the arrival of this Mark II Focus. Chapahal, meanwhile, has now managed to get going where he went off briefly at the entrance towards the old hairpin. Jameson will try and come back, but it feels as though that Allen's car at least is much better under brakes, hence he's passed both of them much later than intended. Simon Light in the background has also got past the Daniel Brown and Geeson liveried and sponsored RS500, so that's him back down to P5. Classes at which it's in the A class, it is Davies ahead of Allen with Brown down to 3rd now. In Super A, it's now Jameson from Simon Light, and then it's the 135 RSR of Chris Harrison, which is the white car. It's further back at the moment, in 9th. In Class B, B Plus is being headed by Paul Neville from Kester Cook, who he's the one that started quite out of position, back in 30th, up 16 places to 14th already. So good effort from Kester. He's using quite a quick car. There he is, in fact. Good timing. Up the inside of Sam Daffin he goes. That will make it 13th, and that is unfortunately the end of Daniel Brown's race quite prematurely. The very pretty looking RS500, probably not so pretty mechanically now as it goes off the road right at the cut-off road at the Craner Curves. Yeah, it did look like he was losing pace just before that, so yeah, it's a shame that car's not going to make it to the end. There's a little bit of smoke hanging in the air at the top of the Craner Curves, I noticed, so I suspect that came from the car of Daniel Brown just before it pulled off. Good battle here, 85 Sean Brown, runs a bit wide through McLean's corner, loses a position and is about to lose another one to the rapid Kester Cook, so this will put Kester into, I think, about 12th or 13th place now, 13th I reckon, at the expense of Sean Brown, but that will probably be 12th by the end of the lap. So really, really quick pace being shown by that not exactly standard Ford Fiesta, I suspect. I don't know what engine they've got in that, but it is rapid down the straights. And I'm not sure what the issue was in qualifying for Kester. A 1:26.7 was his best lap. That's well off the pace that he's running now. That lap time, a 16.1, which would have put him about 8th on the grid if he'd have done that this morning in qualifying. So very impressive stuff. And Kester Cook, I suspect, is going to keep on moving forward from there. That's actually 9th position that he's in now at the end of the 5th lap. Yeah, a couple of dropouts. One, of course, being Daniel Brown, of course, has helped him out. There goes, that was Markham Wise, who's also a stalwart in this series. A couple more cars towards further back. Don't often see Mark 1 focuses in this championship. Well, you do with Rob Lewis when he competes, when his car decides to behave or he remembers to put it back together again. So that car, or the focus there, the Mark 1, is John Ward, who's starting on the back row of the grid. As you see, they're just arriving into the chicane past all the back markers. Comes the fight for second between James Allen and Lloyd Jameson. Down the pit straight they come, past the other escort cars within the field, flashing the must be LED headlights, and Jameson getting a little closer as a result of that. So this battle isn't really over by a long shot, I don't think. I'd invite you, considering that Jameson, through the traffic, was 8/10 quicker. There's confirmation Daniel Brown is out of the race on the bottom right. And then Simon Light, they're holding on to fourth. And yeah, these two very evenly matched. Into the pit lanes come number 18, which is... 18 is Richard Bishop in the Mark 1 Escort. He started way back in 28th position, so not a good race for him either. A few more dropping out. We've gone past half distance, just under 7 minutes to go in this race. And at the moment, Jason Davies now has got the gap out to, well, it's down 9 seconds, but I think he might have possibly backed off a tiny bit, considering that he's quite distant out in front, and not pulling away as fast as he was doing earlier on when he had much more gusto to do so. Yeah,
well, they're in amongst the traffic at the moment, aren't they? Which is obviously going to be having an effect. Everyone was about 5 seconds off their previous best pace amongst that leading group. So, yeah, I think that's the last of the clear track well and truly gone now. Davis crosses the line that time, 1 minute 14, so fractionally quicker than the previous lap, but still struggling, I think, to get into any sort of a rhythm. It's so difficult, isn't it, when you've got so many other cars running at very different speeds around you. Davis leads in Class A, Lloyd Jameson leads Class SA, and he's still trying to find a way past James Allen, but not quite close enough to do so as they head out of Redgate Corner. B Plus being led by Paul Neville, and Class B itself led by the number 2 car, by the looks of it, of Sam Daffin, and that's one of the closer battles actually, with he and Sean Brown, who we saw before. Sean Brown in his Escort Mark 1 actually fighting for class victory in Class B, as they're the monster branded Ford Focus with the WRC spec rear wing on it, makes its way up towards McLean's Corner.
Noticed on James Allen's car, the front splitter just flapping a bit, or chattering on the front end. You see it's going through. It's doing a little bit there. You can just see it there. It's flapping around just as you look at its underside of the car going through. There's a couple more of the machines in the field. Just an internal battle going on there between the 847 Escort Mark II, which is Fiesta Mark II, Lucas Dryden. He's battling there with Ian Blackley's Ford Puma, and that is over, not in class, I don't believe. No, it's not, because it's B plus for the Puma, B simply for the Mark II. There's Simon Light putting a lap on both of them. It is for overall position. That will be for 18th position between the two of them. Another pretty Mark 1 in the field as well. That was the bronze-coloured car, and that and a couple others about to be lapped by the ever-rapid Jason Davies. But I thought, unless I was seeing things, that James Allen was a lot closer. Yeah, 4.5 seconds, because he's gained 2.2 seconds, I'm guessing, through the traffic. So James Allen, he's negotiating the traffic right now much better than Jason Davies, I would argue, because that gap was 9 seconds about a lap or two ago. Now it's been slashed in half. Jason's had a moment behind 1 or 2 back markers, so James just negotiated them much much better. The gap is severely coming down quite quickly, almost half gone, and barely a lap and a bit.
Yeah, it depends where you catch the traffic, I suppose. If you catch them through that final chicane, there's nowhere really to go, so you can lose quite a bit of time, 2 or 3 seconds, just through one slight fumble in the traffic, I suppose. Let's hope that's all it is, and it's not the sign of an issue developing for Davis. Let's see what this lap time is. It's a similar one, 14.8, and yes, that's again 1.1 seconds slower than James Allen. So there is the leader. Is it traffic that's causing him problems, or is there a gremlin starting to creep into the systems of Ford Sapphire Cosworth, being chased down by the Focus of James Allen, who of course will also have some lappery to be doing. He's 1.7 seconds ahead of Lloyd Jameson now as well, so James Allen starting to look a bit more comfortable in second. There he goes, scything his way up the inside of one of the Mark 1 Escorts down the hill. The body language of that car does say that he is attacking to me. And as I said, he sort of qualified out of position, really. 7th on the grid, just over 3 seconds slower than the pole position time. You would expect more than that from James Allen, so maybe this is just a case of James finally delivering on the pace that we know that car's capable of.
He's been getting a bit too held up in this particular sequence of traffic. I think the gap is still roughly the same, given their pace of about, it's still about roughly 3.5 to 4 seconds. He's lost some time on this lap alone. Either he's permanently fixed or pressed down the button for his headlight flashing, or he's just keeping it held whilst he's going through no matter what. Absolutely be the case. Now, there's a lot of clear air here, so we'll be able to tell exactly if Jason Davies' lap times are better, and that was a better lap this time. He did gain back 8/10, so the gap is back to 4.2. So I think it seems to be that traffic is a big factor, and in fact, what Jameson hasn't really gone that much elsewhere anyway. He looked like he's negotiated the traffic better than he did, and Alan did. Half a second quicker on that lap in the Escort Maxi Cosworth. Down the hill on this, I'd say, lap time wise, at least 2 laps to go, including the one that they're on. Maybe 3 if they're quick enough to do so. That's Simon Light off the road. That will be the exit of Redgate Corner. Now, again, the big question, did he jump or was he pushed? Because it looks like it's gone tracking through the gravel quite some pace, whether he's had contact with somebody who's still skating off. But that looks like he's gone very, very deep at quite a high speed. That would invite that he's approached Redgate Corner at quite a high speed and ended up there because he's been going quite a high rate of knots.
Well, yeah, but he's actually past Redgate, isn't he, really? It's almost like he's gone off on the exit of the corner. He's a long way round the turn, and there was a bit of bodywork in the gravel trap and sort of the telltale tyre marks through the gravel. It was towards the exit of the corner, really, so that would suggest maybe someone else was involved. Not entirely sure. Anyway, here come the leaders. They're about to start the penultimate lap of the race, and is this lead gap coming down? I would say it is. Yes, 1.3 seconds, personal best lap time that time for James Allen, and nearly matched by Lloyd Jameson behind him, who's only 1.5 seconds adrift in third. So 2 more laps to go, and the top 3 covered by 2.8 seconds. I have noticed that James Allen's splitter is a little bit loose. I was going to suggest that that's maybe why he was no longer catching the race leader, but that's no longer the case, is it? Because Jason Davies is being caught by the second place man, and that was on genuine pace.
It was, yeah. So he wasn't sure if it was a problem or not, because that's nearly a full. In fact, 3 seconds quicker on that lap. You look at it, it was a 13.9 for Davies and 11.0. That was nearly 3 seconds quicker. So it makes no difference as he comes through. So you really slashed that gap down pretty quickly, and I would offer you that unless Jason makes it overly difficult and holds him up and then backs him into Lloyd Jameson as a result, it's probably a case of when, with all due respect, rather than if he gets past. Down the back straight we see another of the Brown and Geeson liveried cars. That's the 985 machine that's started about mid-pack or so, a bit further back than it should have been. 85, it's a nice score, as...
Where's the leader? There is James Allen, there is Lloyd Jameson. I didn't see Jason Davies come through. No, so James Allen then takes the lead, and
there he is.
There is the erstwhile race leader, a long way back, and not destined for the pit lane, carries on, but at a reduced pace, most definitely. So there is an issue of some sort with the Sapphire Cosworth. That's a great shame, a lap and a half from home, but I think that was sort of on the cards for a lap or so before. It did seem as though he was losing pace, and now it's just a case of trying to limp the car home. So James Allen gets the lead, but Lloyd Jameson is not far behind him. We're on the final lap of the race. They've got a whole sea of traffic to try and negotiate, and Lloyd Jameson could yet challenge for the victory. He's closing now as they head up through Schwann's Curve for the final time. And James Allen, headlights flashing, but that front splitter dragging on the ground might be slowing him down slightly, and that might just offer Lloyd Jameson half an opportunity. Up towards Coppice they go, the gap continuing to shrink. It was only 3/10 at the start of the lap though, actually, so if anything it's gone out since the start of the 13th and final lap. But Jameson's car, we know, is quick in a straight line. Here he comes, he's closing on James Allen. James should be later on the brakes, and is, but this could become a drag race to the line. There's a lapped car ahead. How many horsepower has Lloyd Jameson got at his disposal? Is it enough to grab the win? I think it might have been. No, by 45 thousandths of a second. James Allen hangs on, but that was a drag race to the line, and Lloyd Jameson so nearly got there, but just couldn't quite get his nose ahead. That was an awful lot closer than James Allen wanted it to be, and it was all because he couldn't carry the momentum off the final corner because of the lapped car ahead of him, and that almost opened the door for Lloyd Jameson to steal the win. Jason Davies has to settle for third. Of course, lost the Class A victory out of all of that too, because James Allen was also a Class A runner. Class B Plus won by Paul Neville, and Paul crosses the line, or will cross the line momentarily in the 33 car. There goes Paul Neville, just out of shot, and 5th place overall. So a solid finish that for Paul. And we'll get a couple of the other class winners. In fact, we've already had the Class B winner through. Now, Class B was quite close before, but Sean Brown ended up winning by 28.5 seconds in the end over Mike Thurley. So that's... because the number 2 car of Sam Daffin, who was leading earlier on in that class, pitted a few laps from home. So he unfortunately retired from the lead of Class B. So, dramatic race that, and very nearly 3 different leaders in the last lap and a half or so. A shame for Jason Davis, that, but a brilliant grandstand finish between James Allen and Lloyd Jameson. And according to the timekeepers, 45 thousandths of a second, all that separated Lloyd Jameson from claiming the race win. But that will give him plenty of hope going into race 2 later on this afternoon, that maybe there's going to be an opportunity for him to steal a victory in that one. James Allen, of course, will likely not be starting as far out of position in that one, so it will be a slightly tougher job for Jameson, but the Escort Cosworth Maxi, we know, is a quick piece of kit. It has to settle for second this time, though, by the narrowest of margins. James Allen wins from Lloyd Jameson, and Jason Davis in third. Is that Lloyd Jameson's car that stopped on the way into the pit lane? Well, okay. Might have to take back what I've just been saying about his prospects for race 2. Mike Manning was 4th ahead of Paul Neville and Chris Harrison. Then Kester Cook from 29th on the grid finishes in 7th position. We cycle through some of the other finishers. And class winners, Chris White is a class winner in Class SB. Gary Littlewood, a winner in Class C. I think he was the only Class C runner, and he was the last of the finishers, actually. Sam Daffin, as I said, retired to the pit lane. Simon Light we saw off at Redgate Corner, John Ward, Oliver Bullion, and a whole host of others sadly not making it to the finish. But it was a typically entertaining 15 minutes of modified Ford Series racing.